Canada is one of the most respected countries in the world, known for its peaceful diplomacy, polite citizens, and beautiful landscapes. However, not every nation rolls out the red carpet for Canadian passport holders. While it might be hard to believe, some countries have strict travel bans, visa denials, or entry restrictions that apply to Canadians due to political disagreements, historical tensions, or ongoing security concerns. In this video, we explore 10 countries where Canadians are currently not allowed or face serious hurdles just trying to enter. Stick around to find out which nations have closed their doors and why. Number 10. Bhutan. Unlike many other countries on this list, Bhutan's restrictions are not based on hostility or war, but rather on preservation and control. Bhutan has a unique policy aimed at limiting tourism to protect its culture and environment. Canadians, like many others, must go through a government-approved tour operator, and the process is both expensive and selective. Independent travel is not allowed, and those who don't follow strict guidelines are denied entry. While Bhutan isn't banning Canadians out of animosity, the barriers are so high that many simply give up trying. For travelers who value spontaneity or independence, Bhutan is a no-go zone, even for Canadians. Number 9. Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan might not be a war-torn country, but it's still extremely difficult for Canadians to visit. The country is one of the most closed and secretive in Central Asia, with a highly authoritarian regime that severely limits access to foreigners. Visa approvals are rare and heavily restricted, and Canadians often find their applications denied without explanation. The government controls virtually every aspect of life in Turkmenistan, and even those who manage to enter are subject to constant surveillance. For Canadians hoping to explore this mysterious nation, the odds of gaining access are incredibly low. The restrictions are not violent, but they are absolute. Number 8. Somalia. Somalia is one of the most dangerous places in the world for foreign nationals, and that includes Canadians. With ongoing civil conflict, widespread piracy, and a powerful extremist presence, the country is virtually inaccessible to anyone from the West. For Canadians, there are few, if any, legal means to enter Somalia. Even humanitarian and aid workers are often denied access due to security concerns. The Canadian government has no embassy or consular services in Somalia, leaving citizens entirely without support if something goes wrong. Given the high probability of violence and kidnapping, Somalia remains a country that has effectively barred Canadians from entry. Number 7. Iraq. Iraq is another country where Canadians face significant entry challenges. Although some parts of Iraq are more stable than others, the country as a whole remains a high-risk destination due to political instability, terrorism, and sectarian violence. Canadian travelers are often viewed with suspicion, and the visa process is extremely difficult. Entry can be denied outright, and those who manage to get in may find themselves monitored or restricted in their movements. The Canadian government warns against travel to Iraq, and the lack of consular support means that any trouble encountered would be extremely difficult to resolve. Iraq remains largely off-limits for Canadians, especially in the current geopolitical climate. Number 6. Afghanistan. Afghanistan continues to be a nation fraught with security challenges, especially since the Taliban returned to power. The political situation is volatile, and the threat of terrorism, arbitrary arrest, and kidnapping is extremely high. For Canadians, entering Afghanistan is not only discouraged but practically impossible due to the absence of diplomatic relations and active embassies. The Government of Canada has also advised against all travel to Afghanistan, citing extreme risks to personal safety. Canadians who are caught in Afghanistan have limited options for help, and their presence could be seen as politically provocative. This makes Afghanistan a country that has effectively shut its doors to Canadians. Number 5. Libya. Libya is still reeling from the aftermath of revolution and civil war. The country remains divided between rival factions, and security conditions are highly unstable. For Canadians, travel to Libya is not just discouraged, it's nearly impossible. The absence of a functioning government and the threat of kidnapping or violence make it an extremely hostile environment for foreign nationals. Moreover, the lack of an operational Canadian embassy makes any consular assistance non-existent. Extremist groups operating in Libya have targeted foreigners in the past, which puts Canadians at significant risk. The country is currently considered one of the most unsafe for Canadians, with entry restrictions that are nearly impossible to overcome. Number 4. Yemen. Yemen is another country in turmoil where Canadians are effectively barred from entry. The ongoing civil war, widespread violence, and humanitarian crisis have made it one of the most dangerous places in the world. For Canadians, the dangers are compounded by a lack of diplomatic relations and infrastructure. Even if a Canadian were to obtain a visa through a rare and complicated process, entering Yemen would be akin to entering a war zone. The risk of being caught in crossfire or falling victim to extremist groups is extremely high. With the security situation deteriorating and foreign nationals being targeted, Yemen is firmly off the list of travel destinations for Canadians. Number 3. Syria. Syria has been engulfed in conflict for many years, making it a high-risk destination for travelers from all nations. For Canadians, the dangers are particularly acute. Not only is the country in the midst of political and civil unrest, but Canadian citizens are also often viewed with suspicion due to Canada's involvement in international coalitions opposing the Syrian regime. Entry to Syria for Canadians is essentially prohibited, and even attempting to cross the border could result in arrest or worse. The security situation is dire, and there's a total lack of consular assistance for Canadians. With bombings, kidnappings, and military checkpoints, Syria remains one of the most hostile environments for Canadians. Number 2. Iran. Iran has long had a complicated relationship with many Western countries, including Canada. After diplomatic relations between the two nations were severed, tensions only grew deeper. Iranians and Canadians alike are affected by this lack of diplomacy, but for Canadian travelers, this means Iran is mostly off-limits. Canadians who try to visit face difficulties securing visas and are subject to strict scrutiny. There have also been instances where Canadians were detained in Iran under accusations of espionage or anti-state activities. Without an embassy or consulate to provide support, Canadians who run into legal trouble in Iran are left extremely vulnerable. As a result, Iran remains one of the top countries where Canadians are not welcome. Number 1. North Korea. North Korea is one of the most isolated and secretive countries on the planet. The regime maintains tight control over who can enter its borders, and that includes a ban on most Western tourists. Canadians are particularly discouraged from entering due to a lack of diplomatic representation and the risk of arbitrary detention. The Canadian government itself strongly advises against travel to North Korea because of the unpredictable nature of the regime. Even if a Canadian somehow obtained permission to enter through a tightly controlled tour group, the risk would still be incredibly high. The relationship between Canada and North Korea is virtually non-existent, and any attempt to enter is both difficult and dangerous. While the Canadian passport is often considered one of the strongest in the world, it doesn't guarantee universal access. Political tensions, civil unrest, and strict government policies can still make certain countries completely off-limits. Whether it's war-torn regions like Syria and Yemen, authoritarian states like Turkmenistan, or heavily regulated nations like Bhutan, Canadians are not always welcome. If you're planning to travel abroad, it's crucial to check the latest travel advisories and understand the unique restrictions of each country. Safe travels, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Infosphere for more videos just like this one.